And hello, David Salomon here, and welcome to Live Streaming Studio. Just adjusting a couple of things here as we get started. This is the first of a series of programs that I'm going to be doing at this time slot, Tuesday morning, 10:30 Adelaide, South Australia time. And the goal of Live Streaming Studio is to build out a live streaming studio to Facebook, YouTube, to an internet show. Now, by build out, I mean there's a lot of different moving parts that you need to have in place to really successfully put a show together for the purpose of building your community and growing your business. And over the past couple of years, really, I've been looking into this more deeply as my business has moved away from video production and distributing through DVD to internet delivery. And at the same time, the opportunity has come up to really look into expanding audiences through social media. So that's what the show is going to be about. And so today is something of an introduction, really just to let you know about the scope, I guess, of what we're going to cover over the next weeks. Last week I was having a conversation with a business owner, and I should say at the outset here that really the businesses that I have in mind are the arts, health and education practitioners who are operating a small business. So generally there's not a lot of resources available to have a dedicated person who is doing the social media and the business development. Often they're one person or only a couple of people operating that. And so the things that I'm looking at will be geared towards that. When we get through to the final configuration of what we're doing here in terms of building a live streaming studio, it really is necessary to have a very strong system in place to be able to do that for a number of reasons. Firstly, operating the system we have here is rather complex in the sense that we've got two things going at once. We've got the technical production side of it, and then we've got the creative content delivery aspect of it. And from the brain research, we know that those two things don't really happen at the same time. They use different parts of the brain. They require a different kind of awareness for that to happen successfully. And so the way to get around that is to make all the technical stuff very systems oriented, a bit like driving a car, I suppose, so that you can eventually not think about, what your feet are doing and what your hands are doing. There's an unconscious direction taking place, and you can drive safely without actually thinking through, oh, now I have to press the accelerator, oh, now I have to press the brake. It's something that comes automatically. And so that's where we're going to in terms of live streaming, coming to a place where the systems are so strong and the familiarity is such that we can do it without trying to switch our brain to do different things at the same time. I'm still doing a little bit of that at this stage as I'm putting my live streaming studio together, and then there's various levels that we need to be aware of as well, because it's something that we don't actually make in one step. It requires a lot of chunking down, putting a lot of things in place so that the whole system can operate successful. So over the next weeks, and it's an open question at this stage how long that will be, over the next weeks I'll be looking through the strategic areas, I guess. So, for example, we know that we need to have a website as a central hub for a live streaming studio, because we need to have somewhere to track our audience, to communicate with our audience, to follow up on things that we've said in the live stream, to make it easier to find out or to revise or to get information that was perhaps dealt with. And while video and audio is great for engaging with you, it's not a very good medium if you really want to check back. Oh, what was that somebody said in such and such an episode? When was that again? And what? You get my drift. So the solution to that is to have in our hub, in our website, whether that be a dedicated website or a blog roll, a place where we put to text the content of each program so that it becomes searchable, and the memory triggers are there so that we can recap on particular information or techniques or how-tos that might have been discussed during the program. So there will be various companions, shall we say, to this live stream. Obviously, you're picking up first of all on my Facebook page or a page that has been shared to. It's initially going out onto my Facebook news feed. But there will be other places that you'll be able to pick that up as well. So one of the first things, as I mentioned, we'll be talking about the website. And this is following a conversation I was having with a practitioner recently who was saying that they really thought they should do something about their website that was getting rather tired now and needed a refresh. And the thought occurred to me that, the function of a website has changed dramatically over the years and over the period of time that a website needs refreshing. At one stage, the website was really sort of a calling card that people would go to, and they'd get all sorts of information, and they'd use it as a sort of a reference tool to do some research into what your business is about or what your content was about. That tends not to be the case these days. Social media has by and large taken over that role. So for many practitioners in particular who are working with or making their services available rather than a series of products, a fully fledged website doesn't make the sense that it used to. It can be expensive, and it can be hard to get people to show up there to use it. And so we're looking at a more dynamic sort of a website, and it's what I'm calling a tiny website. Often it'll be a one-pager, and it will be really suitable to be viewed on mobile as well. And when you think about it, the way that we use a website on mobile, the buttons and switching pages is really rather a nuisance. Whereas being able to scroll through the news feed and just to be able to, find down the page what we're looking for is much more convenient. So I'm thinking that what most practitioners need is a tiny website with perhaps a blog roll attached. The advantages of having a blog is that, of course, it's searchable. It has categories and keywords so that information in your content can be readily found by a someone who's looking into what you're doing or your content or how you're working, or a how-to that you've explained at some stage, and they can find that quite easily because of the navigation tools associated with a blog page. And of course the other advantage of the blog is that each post has a unique address. And so it can go to many places, and we can sort of build up a network from social media, from Facebook, say, or from YouTube, or from Instagram, or from various places that all link back to that particular post that people might be interested in. So we're looking less at the old approach to search engine optimization, where people are looking for something in Google, though we're not ignoring that entirely. But in the past, that was the main strategy that web designers and builders were advising people to use to put their message out there. And that relies on, of course, someone coming to Google or Bing or one of the other search engines and actually saying, this is what I want to find about, of actually typing in the keywords to their search terms and allowing the search engines to find it, which is a different approach to what we're looking at here with Live Studios, with Live Streaming Studio, where it's really the community that you build by the conversations that you're having, the interactions, the comments and the sharing that's going on as people get to know what you're doing and how you do it and what the benefits are and what sorts of solutions you might have there that you're offering to a general audience. So it's really the community that's driving the audience growth, not the search engines. I don't know if that distinction has quite come across, but I think it is an important one, and it's the reason why we're having here such a strong focus on Facebook, but also incorporating YouTube, perhaps Twitter, and the blog that you have on your website, so that the website that you have, whether that's tiny or whether it's a fully blown website or whether it's a blog roll, becomes a central hub for the content that you're creating. And so while it's not the first port of call for your audience, it is somewhere that people who are interested in the message that you're broadcasting, it is a place that people will come to at some stage or another to look at perhaps other offerings that you have, or to revise something or check on something that you've talked about earlier on. Excuse me. So that's the website, and I'll be talking a little bit about that in a upcoming episode. And I should mention here that excuse me. I should mention here that the demonstrations that I will be doing will be based on software that's available for Macintosh computers. I've been an Apple guy for many years, since I was teaching in schools in the early 90s, and in a sense I've followed through that sort of educational approach as opposed to the business approach that was so strong with the Microsoft products. And of course Apple has always had a strong presence in education, and while it does that well, there are areas that it isn't so strong in at all. For example, the gaming areas. So I will be following that line, and I'll be putting in links for PC, Windows users that offer alternatives where I'm specifically looking at a Mac-only option. And that will happen from time to time with some of the software that I'm using. But in every case, there is an alternative to it. And in some cases, it is a cross-platform option as well. So we will be looking at some software that is available for Apple computers to do various things, and often we'll be looking at the PC option will be a cloud version of software that is available. And one of the differences here is that in most cases the cost involved for the Apple solution is going to be somewhat less expensive than the cloud version because of the recurring payment model that's mostly used with the online solutions. Whereas if you buy a piece of software, in most but not all cases, it'll be a once-off purchase, which sort of makes up for the extra cost of the Apple computer in the first instance. You certainly are going to be paying more for a basic machine. Certainly one that you can be doing live streaming with is going to be more expensive than the cheapest PC available. But that's a bigger conversation for another time. The other area that I'll be looking at in the near future is the use of chatbots. Now, some people will have come across these where through Facebook Messenger, for example, is a very good example of that. So a chatbot is harnessing the power of Messenger to develop an automated conversation for the sorts of things that, questions that are frequently asked, that, require something of a very strongly linear or focused response. But we've all had the experience of needing to repeat a conversation over and over for each person who asks it. And the reasoning behind the chatbot is to have some level of personal connection without actually having to be there for every step of the way. And we'll be talking a lot about that in the future. Sorry, I'm getting a call coming in there that I forgot to turn off my devices earlier on. A reminder there to follow the checklist. So they're the things that I'm going to be talking about primarily. Just to recap there, we'll be talking about building out a live streaming studio, the role of a website within that, whether you need to have a fully built out website. Obviously, if you're doing physical products that you're taking online orders for, you will need to have an online shop. But if you're offering services, you probably don't need that. But you may well want a blog. You may well want to have some sort of a calendar system for taking prepayments, or you might want to have a system for taking bookings. So we'll be talking about that at a later stage. We'll be talking about the use of chatbots for introducing perhaps people who are making initial inquiries into some aspect of what you're doing, and doing that in a way that is a pleasant and enjoyable experience for the inquirer, but leaving you free to do other things. Because one of the big things with practitioners in these areas, health, arts, education, who are operating a small business, is that they really enjoy doing what they do in their business, and frequently enjoy working in their business much more than they do working on their business. So this area that we're talking about in Live Streaming Studio will largely be about working on your business. And because of that, an area that's being dealt with or being raised more and more, but traditionally hasn't been, is that of the sorts of mental and mindset plateaus and barriers that you reach that you need to overcome in the case of building out a strategy such as this successfully. You definitely have to get out of your comfort zone. Speaking on video can be initially a challenging thing for some people, while others love it right from the beginning. But always, practice is the key to becoming fluent, and along the way we will come across attitudes or beliefs that we've held in the past about what we can do, what we can't do, what we're good at, what we're not, that will tend to interfere at some level with what we're trying to do. We'll reach a level that we can't seem to get past, and so from time to time I'll be giving references or talking about some techniques that you can use for that area as well, because there's no doubt in my mind that if you start on this sort of a process of doing something that is new and bringing your skills up to date, you will encounter periods of time when you doubt your own ability, where you doubt whether what you're doing is the right thing to do, whether you are uncertain about whether it's worth the effort, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole load of unconscious drivers that are affecting the way we approach things. So to my mind, it's really important to make use of some of the more current research on neuroscience, whether they're techniques such as NLP or timeline therapy is another, EFT, emotional freedom tapping. A lot of people will have heard of tapping and how easy, effective and rewarding that can be. So to my way of thinking, there needs to be that parallel conversation that's happening as we're sort of doing these rather unfamiliar technical things. So because it's such a big area that we're embarking on here, I'll be guided by your comments and questions to a large degree about which path that we're going to take. I think it's useful to think of it not as a linear path that we're doing here, but it's really a network that we're building out. And whether we go this way from node to node or that way or another way, it doesn't really matter. And what we will find is that as we go along the way, we're going to be getting benefits from establishing parts of the puzzle immediately, even though we won't get the full benefit of a live streaming studio, if indeed that is your goal, until that is fully built out. But many of us may not want to go that full distance, or you may be satisfied with simply having video as part of our content production. So we'll be dealing with that as well along the way, and that is equally as applicable to 90% of what we're doing, as is the live streaming studio. So I'm very keen to have your comments, and I'm just going to check out right now whether we have any comments that are in the comments. So post a question if you have a specific area that you would like to know more about or would like to discuss, and I'll pick that up. So I'm just using my phone here to check comments, and we don't have any there at the moment, but leave comments later on as well if you're watching it in the replay, and I'll follow that up closely and have a period of time each episode where we can deal with your comments and questions or queries. So we're going on towards the half hour. Just one more thing I would like to talk about in reference to Live Streaming Studio itself. While the end goal is to have a dedicated setup, technical setup that allows you to easily and effortlessly stream content, from a planned schedule that you will have developed. We'll be talking about strategies as well. While that is the end goal, the first step really is a basic level where you might be doing a live stream from your mobile phone. And one of the important things to be aware of is that this isn't a one-size-fits-all. Even if we have got to the stage of having the fully developed live streaming solution, we will still be using the mobile phone for spontaneous or short live streams that may not be part of the main content delivery, but they will be part of the conversation that we're having. I thought it was interesting to read Mark Zuckerberg's comment about video and the direction that Facebook is going in. He was saying that in a few years' time, he thought that most of our conversation will be via video. And so we're putting things together here that are really designed to be future-proofing your approaches, the development of your business, and the content that you're putting out in terms of working on your business. We're using projections about the sorts of approaches that will be the most useful in the future. Video is huge, there's no doubt about that. Already we're seeing a significant amount of interactions on Facebook, for example, as being video. And we're seeing a significantly bigger proportion being live video. Now, we haven't really quite caught up with that in Australia. We're generally a little bit behind the United States in that area, but we generally follow along pretty firmly in the same pathway. So that's the direction that we're taking here, using the best research that is available to us right now, so that we can be looking at those things that are going to have the most lasting and beneficial effect on your business. Well, thanks for joining me. We're just coming up to the half hour now, and that's generally about the time that I'm thinking will be useful for these broadcasts. And if you have specific requests, as I said before, or queries or questions or things that you want to know how to do, and particularly if they're either cloud-based or specifically for Macintosh. Either put it in the comments of the video here, or you can send me an instant message on Facebook. So thanks for joining me. Great to have you aboard, and I look forward to seeing you next time.